Hey kinesiology students, what's going on? Julia here again, wrapping up our semester with our last fitness test video. And for this video, I'll be reviewing the timed up and go test, which is an indirect measure of dynamic balance, obviously taken in standing. The timed up and go is usually used in older populations, so generally adults that are 70 or above. It can be used in younger populations. It has been studied a little bit. But for somebody who's a little more healthy, a little more able-bodied, it's not going to tell you a whole lot about how they're functioning, because these are things that are pretty easy for somebody who is, physically intact. This assessment does provide an accurate measure of balance. In particular, it's very useful for predicting somebody's performance with ADLs. For example, if you're sitting in a chair and the telephone rings and you need to get up to go pick up the phone, it gives you a good idea of how somebody would kind of respond to that situation. It is important to note that this test specifically that we're reviewing today is the 3-meter timed up and go, so 10 feet. For your clients who are not quite as physically able for whatever reason, there's also an 8-foot version that's just a touch shorter that you can use for them instead. And for this version of the test, for kind of the true version of the test, we are going to administer the test with an armless chair. But if your client happens to have difficulty with something like standing up, you can also administer the test with a chair that has arms. This test is actually pretty popular because it's very fast to administer. You can do it basically anywhere, and it provides a really nice kind of objective way to measure how your client is progressing through whatever program you've assigned them. Just like with any of your other tests that may precipitate the beginning of an exercise program, it's usually a good idea to give some kind of questionnaire beforehand, so I always like to recommend the PAR-Q. Just because it's very simple to fill out and it gives you a good idea kind of where somebody stands health-wise. It's just one of those things to kind of cover the bases to make sure that you are being as safe as you can. And so for this test, you're going to need your 43 centimeter tall chair without arms, a measuring tape or some other way to measure out your 10 feet or your 3 meters, a timer, and then an area that's clear of obstacles. Instead of any uneven surfaces, try to have it just one texture, such as only carpet or only tile. It's also helpful if you have something to kind of mark your 10-foot mark with, so it can just be a small cone or even just a piece of tape. And so with all of that in mind, we will go ahead and get started. So to begin the test, let's go ahead and assume that I've already measured out the 10 feet right ahead and marked it with a cone or a piece of tape. From here, I would instruct my client just to sit up nice and tall back in the chair with their hands on their thighs. You have the option to ask them to bring one leg a little further back. If you do so, keep in mind that that back leg is going to take most of the weight. So if you're working with somebody that has a side that is a little weaker, that's something to consider. Otherwise, both feet even is going to be fine. In some situations, it may also be appropriate to have a chair with armrests if your client has decreased leg strength or any kind of issue with that. Explain the whole process to the client first, and then once you've explained it, go ahead and start your timer. So you can use your cell phone or a stopwatch, whatever you happen to have that's available. Have them start, stand up. As soon as you say go, that's when you start the timer. Have them walk the 10 feet, turn around, come back, turn around again, and sit. And as soon as their seat touches the seat of the chair, that's when you go ahead and stop the test. So go ahead and run that with one kind of trial run just to make sure that they're comfortable with what they're doing and that they don't have any questions. Then after that, to administer the actual test itself, you'll have them do that exact same thing 2 times. So make sure that you're timing each time down to the nearest tenth of a second. So say one round there and back might be 10.7. And then once you've timed that, go ahead and average the 2 times from both tests. So after you've administered your test run and then the actual test itself twice, as I mentioned, go ahead and average the test score in seconds of the two that you actually measured or graded. And then you can compare that to kind of a chart of normative values to give you an idea of what your client's balance is like. And from there, once you have a good idea of what you're working with at your baseline, you can go ahead and kind of design your program around that. So, as always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I appreciate all of you guys tuning in, kind of checking it out. I look forward to seeing what you all have to kind of bring for your own balance or flexibility tests, and I'll talk to you in the comments. Thanks.